From the great halls of their house, there are assembled three who hope to one day be the world's greatest driving heroes. Created from the cosmic legends of the universe comes our team captain, the Vision, Bill Fisher. Their soon-to-be Wonder Woman, Vicky Fisher, and our Batman, the master of tools, gadgets, and all things mechanical, our mild-mannered soon-to-be millionaire, Alan Danvers. Their mission? To fight injustice, share what is right and wrong, to get you out of your house and come out racing with us and serve all mankind. They are the Garage Heroes in Training Team.
Welcome to the Garage Heroes in Training podcast. I'm going to be your host, Bill, and we have two guest hosts and a special guest this week. Who's helping me?
I'm Vicky.
I'm Alan.
And they really don't know the alphabet because we do this alphabetical. So A comes before B.
Yeah, but Alan always fits, and I'm Alan.
Oh boy! All right. Well, I apologize.
We can go in first.
Okay. Very well.
Alphabetical, and then this round.
Okay.
See, there we go.
So once again, I'm your host, Bill, and I'm apologizing for us and our guest. We have someone that I met over the internet. He has been one of the people we follow in racing. He's been racing, it seems like, every weekend in every single type of car I can think of. And he's also somebody who willingly volunteers a lot of help in the area of iRacing. And I've been listening to him, and I think that the team is finally going to get off our butts and start iRacing this winter. So we thought we'd have him on both as a guest for...
Wait, hold on.
Wait, what? Huh?
Isn't that technically sitting on our butts if we're iRacing? I mean, do you have standing models? I'm sorry.
We'll get to that later.
All right.
Let's finish the intro, people. Stay with me. Focus. No shiny objects. And with that,
Squirrel.
We have Scott Barton. Scott, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thank you.
All right. So, Scott, I can't keep track of how many cars you drive, how many races you're in, and what type of racing you do. So could you kind of summarize in less than, 45 minutes, the different races you're doing?
Sure. So for racing, I mostly do endurance racing. Been pretty much doing all the American endurance racing events this year. Done every single AAR race other than one since they've started, actually. I'm one of two people have done almost all of them.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah, so I've basically been doing a lot of the AAR stuff because I do coaching. And so AAR has a practice day every single Friday before the race. All 8 hours of it, you can have coach in the right seat. So basically I trade coaching for seat time.
Wow. That's a good deal.
Ooh, that's a good deal for sure.
Absolutely. And so I've worked with a bunch of teams, a bunch of different cars. In fact, up until this year, we had a lot of mechanicals this year, but up until this year, I had podiumed every single AAR race except for 3.
Wow.
So basically working with the teams to, new teams or whatever to kind of, if they've been mid-pack or if they were new, to kind of get them on a program to be able to be consistently at the front of the pack. Something that I basically was able to do when I was fielding my own car. So kind of taking what I learned over, nice. I've been doing this since 99, so 10 years, been doing this for 10 years, endurance racing, and kind of take all the stuff that I've learned and pass that knowledge on to them.
So I think our team has seen the podium once or twice in the distance.
Well, no, to get to the hot pit, we have to walk right through that area. Where I was there all the time. It's like...
I was always wondering why the ground wasn't flat, but okay. All right. That's fine. So you've done AER primarily. Is there other types of racing you've been into?
Primarily, yeah. So I started in Lemons 10 years ago. I'd been doing DEs for, at that point, up to 10 years. I started doing DEs in 99. So I started doing Lemons events and really liked it. Really liked the endurance racing because it's, I've done BMW sprint racing and some other sprint racing, and really like the endurance racing because it's not so much about how much money you spend on the car to make it as fast as possible, but more on, strategy and prep and consistency and stuff like that, racecraft.
And lots more seat time
So I
too.
really, yeah, lots more seat time. You get to spread out the costs of a weekend amongst multiple people, so you get a lot more seat time at a lot cheaper. But like I said, for the most part, it's really I like to be able to the strategy aspect of endurance racing and being able to do that to beat teams that have a lot more money. Like the first year that Team Salins brought their Porsche, their IMSA Porsche Boxers to AAR. I think that was 2015 or something like that at Mid Ohio. I was in a $25,000 E36 M3, my E36 M3, and we were actually beating them for most of the race, both of their cars for most of the race. And they basically at the very end we got a golden pit stop, got a double yellow flag that they're able to make a lap up on. That we had on them, and then we're able to get out a couple of car lengths behind us on the restart. So they were, almost 2 laps behind us going into that. They were able to, like I said, get right behind us, and they were about 2 seconds a lap quicker, but we just executed a lot better. And unfortunately, with maybe 11 minutes ago or 11 laps, I don't recall, they passed us, and at the end of the race, one of their cars was only 2 seconds ahead of us, and we beat their other car.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Nice.
So, yeah, it's that sort of stuff that I really really enjoy about endurance racing, and specifically AR in general, where you get to really see how you fare against professional drivers and full-on professional teams.
Yeah, I'll show Vicky what that car looks like, so she goes, "Wow!" later.
Yeah, that would be great. I would enjoy that. Thank you.
So, is there any other type of racing you're looking to get into? Is there anything else you want to try, or any bucket list tracks?
Well, so I've won overall in Lemon's Champ Car and AAR. So I would like to do a WRL and maybe even a Lucky Dog, so I could basically have overalls in basically all the street tire endurance race series.
Wow,
Awesome.
So that would be pretty cool.
that would be pretty cool.
Team to
We had a blast running a Lucky Dog this past summer, so that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I've heard good things about them. So yeah, it's just right now had a second kid 2 years ago, so it's kind of been seems like my schedule should be diminishing, and it kind of is, even though it's, as you guys said, it seems like I'm somewhere every weekend or something like that. In fact, I just got back from AAR pit race last weekend, and then Monday or Tuesday, I got a call, said, "Hey, can you come down to Barber and coach us and race with us?" With the Champ Car. Unfortunately, I'd already made plans to visit my mom with the family this weekend, so I couldn't do that.
Yeah. Well, when you have a kid, your schedule doesn't necessarily diminish; it just changes.
Well, that was the funny thing is when I had my first kid 5 years ago, I said, "Oh, I'm not going to do any more, racing, and which I have to, pay for. I'll just do coaching or exchange, for money or exchange for seat time." And then like all of a sudden, I was just, super busy.
Yeah.
Doing 30 plus days a year, maybe even more than that. So, I do coaching at Monticello quite a bit. I love going there. It's a great track and a great facility. Great people there. And I also do a lot of instructing with Extreme Experience, which allows you to basically drive, exotic cars on racetracks. So, in Ferraris, Lamborghinis, McLarens, Porsche,
Nice.
GTR, whatever, they think is kind of cool. They bring. So it's a lot of fun getting into those cars and working with the people who, just are super excited about it and really makes their day. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah, at least 3 of our friends are with Extreme Experiences coaches, so we know a few people there. So
Yeah.
So excellent, because it seems like you travel a bunch too. I might be wrong.
Well, the closest track is 2 hours, so pretty much anywhere you want to go, you got to travel.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
So I got an RV a couple of years ago, maybe 3 years ago, so that way the family can go to more racing events. Because as I said earlier, my wife races. She hasn't been able to do that as much since the kids.
Mm-hmm.
But both my girls absolutely love cars and racing and love going to the track. So the closer events and when it's nice weather, they'll they'll go and stuff. So yeah, my wife did the lemons at NJMP last 2
Oh,
years.
nice.
Oh, wow. We did too.
Yeah.
She probably passed us.
Yeah.
That was 2 years ago. Was our first team race ever. So
Oh, nice.
it was a good time.
That's cool.
Cool.
Yeah.
Any plans on improvement, or are you kind of looking to get her more into it, or just keep?
Yeah, I'm actually probably want to do more, right? So more events that the family can go to. It's I find that I have more fun at those events, so I'll probably do more lemons and champ car events in the area. Maybe some, dial back a little bit on the AAR stuff, but we'll see.
Oh, okay. Who is your team or support group that you mostly, race out of?
So this year I've been working with Dopanic Racing, and last year I started with them. Basically, they have an old E30 that we got second in the AAR National Championships last year. Then one of the drivers got a brand new car to him this year, but unfortunately has had nothing but issues with the car. Bought it, it was supposed to be a turnkey car, and brought it down to Road Atlanta for the very first race. Lap into it on the warm-up lap, blew the motor.
Oh, wow.
Ouch.
Supposed to be supposed to be a freshly done motor. I checked the data. I've got like I said, got AIM as well as Race Capture Pro data in there, and didn't rev above 6,000 RPM. Was taking it super easy. It was just apparently it was a known issue. Were having engine problems. They thought they fixed it. Sold the car because they were having issues. Unfortunately, they didn't fix it.
Oh, geez.
So the car blew a motor every race except for 2.
Oh, ouch.
At least you have your consistency down.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, we were for brand new team, for these guys, brand new car, we were, it was checkers or wreckers. We were at Palmer, we were winning overall by a lap with less than 2 hours to go, and the motor blew. This one, that wasn't too unexpected, only because we saw the low oil pressure light quite a bit on the really like 180-degree sweepers, high G sweepers. So we saw it quite a bit. Basically 2 places every lap we would see it, but we're leading by overall by a lap. We're not just going to stop. So we just kept going, and we're hoping for the best. Unfortunately, the race was, if it was a 7-hour race instead of a 9-hour race,
like a second
best. Fate just kicked you in the teeth.
Yeah, I mean, there's 3 other M or S52 motors that blew up that weekend there. God. So it wasn't. It was pretty rough on cars that weekend.
We've been pretty lucky in that aspect.
Yeah, we've only done one engine and lots of front end components,
and some little bits here and there, some transmissions occasionally. We just.
Cars also gone through a bunch of hobs. Like I lost a wheel at Summit Point.
Oh, is that right?
That was pretty interesting.
We have history.
That was the first for me, and surprisingly, it was actually really easy to control. It's one of the things I've been most scared about racing is having a mechanical where I absolutely just lose control and I'm just along for the ride into a wall or something like that. Right?
Yeah.
That's what kind of keeps me up at night about racing.
Yeah.
But oddly enough, I was able to catch it super quick, get it under control. As I'm getting it under control, I'm on the radio telling them that something went wrong. That basically, I think a wheel fell off, and
sure.
drive it off track and far enough where I'm not going to hit the tire wall on the outside, but away from the cars that are coming around. And that was actually my other concern. Was I got under control real quick. I was like, all right, I just passed a bunch of cars. I don't want them collecting me. So I needed, I was trying to get off without them collecting me coming around this turn.
Yeah. Sometimes it's fear of the other car more than what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. And then the very next race at Mid-Ohio, we lost, actually the same wheel we lost. So brand new studs, obviously, and a brand new hub, and lost it. So now we moved to Preston studs. And didn't have any issues at pit race this weekend at all.
There you go.
We love pit race.
So yeah, it was my first time. Well, actually, I take that back. It was my second time there. Was there 6 years ago with Champ Car and with Team Biohazard. My wife was running on Saturday. I was running on Sunday, driving with them on Sunday. My wife actually got them from third to first, and they won overall by like 2 seconds.
Bam.
That race, yeah, she got. And then I got in on Sunday and was like, I think I smelled coolant. I'm pretty sure I smelled. Keep going, keep going. 2 laps later, boom, motor blow. So,
Oh, geez.
yeah, I drove pit race, but it was only a couple of laps.
Was it before? I heard they had some track review or redo.
This was, so they were building this was the north only. This was as they were building the other section of the track. And I tell you what, though, coming down the downhill, which is, I think, turn 14 now, it was super bumpy. And Troy's car was so tightly sprung that it was just bouncing. I'm like, I'm going to die.
Ah.
So I was, when the car blew up, I'm like, well, at least I didn't die.
Well, that's keeping it positive.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah,
All right. So what is iRacing?
Sure. So iRacing is basically a simulation for, practicing, learning tracks, learning how to race, that sort of stuff. There's multiple racing sims available. I use iRacing and Assetto Corsa primarily, but other good ones are like R Factor and Project Cars for the US. There's also like Race Room Experience, which is pretty good. Automobilista is also really good. However, they have very limited US tracks. So I don't actually use them because I primarily use the sim racing to learn or practice tracks. And I know how to drive, I know how to race, that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
But,
just get the rhythm down.
I find it super helpful. Yeah, exactly. I find it super helpful to learn new tracks and to practice tracks right before I'm going to a race or something like that.
Awesome. So how does iRacing work? What is iRacing? So you're saying you do different tracks. Like, all right, so do I walk into a room? What's your interface?
And the other thing I'm thinking too is just sitting in front of a computer. That's what it just reminds me of, like any other PC game.
Yeah, so I mean, I started off with like an old Logitech G25 steering wheel, and that was it. And I actually didn't like sim racing. Like when I had to go to, I didn't have to go, but I was going to Germany for the Nürburgring and Spa, and I kind of like had to force myself to learn the track because obviously it's a huge track, and I didn't really enjoy it, because just with a regular computer screen and wheel and stuff like that.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry you had to practice to go on the Nürburgring. Oh my God, I'm sorry, Scott. I'm sorry.
He's willing to put the time in. He's got to do what he's got to do.
I'm sending internet hugs over to you, man. Really.
And it was super useful. And shortly when this was maybe 3 years ago, I came back and VR was getting cheap, and I tried a VR headset, and it just absolutely transformed sim racing for me. I finally got like the feel of speed, of size, a lot more realistic. I could look through corners, and just really, really enjoyed it after that. And so from there, I went and got some Fanatec wheel and pedals, a butt kicker for vibration feedback. Shortly after that, I then got a full motion simulator, and it's just kind of been like this downward spiral after that. And really enjoy it, and spend a lot more time than I should on it now.
All right. Awesome. Yeah. So you start out with just a simple steering wheel, and there's all different levels, right? So you got a full simulator, so it moves the seat back and forth. Is it like a regular racing seat?
Yeah, so it's a 3 degrees of freedom. So basically pitch, roll, and traction loss.
Okay.
And it moves the seat and the pedals.
Right. Okay, great.
Yep. Because some can just move the seat, right? It does have a racing seat on it. I added basically harnesses that are spring loaded, so when you brake and the seat tilts forward, the belts get tighter, so you get that little extra feeling of braking. And what's nice about that is that you really notice that a lot more than the forward pitch. When you brake, add a little bit more brakings, you maybe go a little bit forward. You may not necessarily feel that when you're in VR, but you will feel that extra bit of pull on the belt. So it gives you little bit more feedback that way. A lot of that stuff, actually, I would say like the main thing you really need is good pedals, then a good wheel, and actually the vibration, like the sim vibe and a butt kicker, really provide a lot of feedback. The motion simulator is by far it is provides a little bit more information, but for the most part, like my lap times I don't see are that significantly different from using the motion simulator. I still have my old Logitech G25 in my room, and I still use that. My lap times aren't hugely different. However, I spent a ton more time on the sim because of the motion simulator, because it is so much more fun and so much more immersive.
It just gives you the next level, because now you're like, oh, okay, now, yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
But you don't have to like start off with the world. You can kind of add as you go.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I started off for the longest time with the Logitech G25. They have the G29 out right now, G29G 290, which are $200, wheel and pedals for $200. Then get yourself, say, an Odyssey, Samsung Odyssey Plus headset for another, I think they're 275 right now or something like that. And you've got as long as you've got a card, a computer that can use VR, you've got a decent setup for under $500.
Wow.
So you said the G920?
Yeah, G920 and the G29. Basically, one is
G20.
for.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, so one is PlayStation, one is Xbox. That's the only difference. So they both work with PC.
Okay.
So if you just have a PC, I actually like the G29 because it's got a little more buttons.
Okay.
But they're basically the same thing. So whatever one happens to be cheapest at the time, that's the one that you should get if you're looking for if you just have a PC. If you got a PlayStation or an Xbox, then you need to get the right one.
For those of you scoring at home, I will have all these written down in the show notes, so you don't have to do this while you're driving, if you're driving.
All right. I have some few questions just want to add into it. What are the great benefits for iRacing? Like, why do people do it?
So iRacing over the other sims, like I mentioned, Assetto Corsa, R Factor, Project Cars,
PS4.
that sort of stuff. iRacing, yeah, PS4. Well, I mean, those are just titles, right? So you can play Assetto Corsa and Project Cars on your PlayStation 4. iRacing, the benefits of iRacing is everything is laser scanned and super accurate. So your tracks are all laser scanned. So the texture of the track is exactly how it is in real life. All of your reference points, trees, buildings, everything exactly in its place. So you can use any reference point in the game, you can use in real life.
Ooh, nice.
So when I try to learn a new track or practice track, I will use iRacing first if they have the track. And I'll use whatever, I'll use like the MX-5 Miata probably mostly. Sometimes I'll use the Skip Barber car. Even if it doesn't have a car that it's close to what I'm going to use, I'll use iRacing because everything is laser scanned and way more accurate than some of the other.
And as well, it has the same number of lefts and rights, right? So you'd know when to go left or right if you're going around a track. If you went to a new track, and you didn't know where to go left or right, you could try that.
That is helpful.
Simulate racing to at least know where the lefts and rights are.
That is generally the point of why I use them, so I know where my left from my right.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I'm going to forget because I didn't write it down. So you're running like a VR headset, is that right?
Yeah. So I'm using. I have a Samsung Odyssey Plus in my house, and then I use a Rift in my trailer, which is where my full motion simulator is.
Ah, okay. So the one thing I noticed, and my baseline is Forza and Gran Turismo, so it's not very high baseline. They don't seem to give me the sensation of elevation at all.
Yeah, so that's exactly the issue with non VR is you don't get that sense of perspective. So it's even with triples. I've run on some very expensive sims with triple monitors, and I just personally, I don't really like it. I don't over VR. I'll take a lower resolution VR headset because they're pretty much 1080p. There's some that are 1440p VR headsets, but over high resolution triple monitor setting because you get that sense of speed and motion when you sit in the car and you look around. You're in that car. I mean, it looks exactly like what you'd expect of what a real car looks like. And so when you turn your head and look to the apex, gives you that sense of speed, and you can actually see exactly what's going on. Whereas without it, it takes a while to get used to your braking zones because you have no idea how fast you're going.
Right.
Right.
It's you basically literally you can only use reference points when you have a monitor, like especially a single monitor. You're pretty much just driving by reference point, not by would say the seat of your pants. But when you use VR, it adds a little bit. You still have to use reference points, but you definitely get a much better sensation for size, right? That's the thing. You get when you're in VR, you get a sense of size. That size then gives you the ability to judge your speeds and distances.
Okay.
So if we were to say what you'll need to get started, you're going to need some type of computer with probably the video processing capability for whatever you're trying to do, and that would vary depending on it's 1 screen, 3 screens, VR, etc.
Yeah, correct. So basically, you need a processor that can do 4 threads. Basically, preferably a 4-core processor. Generally an i5 5th generation or newer. And then you'll also need a video card that's capable of doing VR. Pretty much the VR minimum requirements are slightly higher than iRacing minimum requirements. I mean, pretty much anything will run iRacing. You just have to turn the graphic settings like way, way, way down.
Okay.
But pretty much any computer that can run a virtual reality headset will be able to run iRacing at least medium settings, pretty decent settings. Most VR is basically 1080p at 90 frames per second. So it's not super intensive. You're not trying to push, 140, frames per second on, a 4K screen or something like that, right? So if you got really high end stuff, so it's not terribly, the requirements aren't too much.
So
Now,
speaking of the VR, I don't mean to interrupt. Speaking of the VR, because that is kind of like a emerging technology for the iRacing. Do you see much of that?
Absolutely, I see a lot of people using it. Basically, the people who aren't using it, either they've got already invested in a really crazy triple monitor setup, or they get motion sickness with the VR headset. And unfortunately, the getting motion sickness it's going to happen. Like it took me 2 weeks before I could do more than one lap in iRacing or any simulator. What I ended up having to do is actually play just regular VR games and get myself used to virtual reality. And then slowly, try doing a lap and then try maybe doing 2 laps, each day. And then, I just was in VR every single day for about as long as I could take. Now I can go over 2 hours in virtual reality, no problem. But initially, it definitely made me uneasy, but I just kind of forced my way through it. And I think, it's kind of the thing that, especially with, even with racing, you just got to put the time into it to get used to it. And then once you do, it's worth it, and you'll start seeing the payoff.
Okay.
But as I said earlier, I think virtual reality is much better for sim racing than a single monitor and even triple monitors.
Well, that's what I was thinking.
So yeah, it's also a lot cheaper too. I mean, like I said, the Samsung Odyssey Plus is about $275. You're not really going to find a decent, bigger size gaming monitor for that price. So basically, for the price of one gaming monitor, you can get yourself a VR headset. Versus if you really don't want to use VR, you're going to have to pretty much go to triple monitor. So now take that price and triple it, and you're going to need a better video card to handle those bigger triple monitors anyway. So not only is it a lot more expensive, I personally don't think it's a better experience.
So this is very nice because we're actually trying to get this started, and Vicky's putting together my Christmas list for me. So this is good.
Yeah, that's right. And I had to step away from the computer for some of these questions, so I'm probably either going to have to go back and listen.
You might listen to the episode.
No, come on now.
So all the gadgetry that has to go with it, the steering wheel, a special seat is, I'm sure you guys have already discussed that. A shifting pad,
Yeah. We can definitely start fabbing out some seat mounts. We
can have it hanging out down the air hanger.
If only we had a welder.
So I mean, you can buy like pre-made rigs with a
Yeah.
seat for, I think, starting around $350.
Oh no, Bill's gonna try and weld, so we're gonna have him just give him some metal and just see what he can do. You know what I'm saying?
What I was gonna say is they can go upwards of $1,500 for these just these rigs to hold your pedal wheels and stuff like that. But the 3 Degrees of Freedom full motion simulator that I have was $1,700 from doofreality.com.
Yeah, sweet.
So really, for essentially $1,000 more than what you're paying, you can get a motion platform instead of just a static platform.
Oh, okay.
Ooh.
So something to consider.
I don't know. I think Alan's more willing to sit in a race cage in a iRacing situation than sitting in a car racing cage for my first welding. So, just a guess.
No, come on now. No.
So I know you guys have been kind of just talking about iRacing only, and one of the things with iRacing is that it's a subscription base. So you basically have to pay your monthly fees, and then you also have to purchase any content that you want. Now, when the monthly fee is always the same no matter how much content you buy, but like every single track is, I think, $12. Every single car is $12, so you're gonna have to buy all that. So it can add up pretty quickly. But again, I primarily use that, and I think it's worth it because it is all laser scanned and the most accurate. But there are other titles. Again, I'll use Assetto Corsa because it's moddable. So is R Factor. Moddable means basically you can search online and download content, cars, tracks, whatever, for it. Usually for free. Sometimes if it's professionally made, it might cost you $10 or something like that. But you can basically download, all sorts of stuff. So if iRacing doesn't have the track that I want to learn, probably Assetto Corsa does, and if it doesn't, R Factor does. So I'll download it and I'll use that. In fact, I actually made. We were going to Calabogie Motorsports Park, and there is none of the sims have it. So I actually made the sim for Assetto Corsa using software called Racetrack Builder that basically takes in Google Maps data and gives you the train data, and you basically kind of just build the track. And so watching videos and looking at the elevation maps and stuff like that kind of made the track, and spent an insane amount of time, probably well over 100 hours or so building it, but also practicing it on the sim. But it's 22 turns, forgot how many miles, but it's a pretty big track, lots of turns, many blind. And from the very first time that we went with, I built it and I gave it to all my team. So basically, the only people that had this sim was me and my team. For my very first lap, went out, knew it was spot on the line, never missed an apex, and we ended up not only we're in a higher class because of our performance, but we ended up winning that class anyways, both days, because we were able to practice the track in a simulator and no one else was. It was a new track to the series, so no one else had really been there.
All right, nice.
I'm looking at a larger house right now.
Cool. So
What?
So for everyone out there, especially our team, we now have a new excuse for why we're not winning.
Yes.
We have not been doing this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't get any sim time in, so now, yeah, I can see it. All right.
Our house might be a sim house.
That's one more to the repertoire of excuses we have for our bad performance. Okay, cool. we need those.
That's right.
Is there any kind of tips or things we shouldn't do that we should be careful of?
So when you first get into sim racing, just realize that it's like learning a new track or learning a new car for the first time. Even if you're on the sim and it's a track and a car that you've been in before, it will not feel exactly like the car or the track that you've been to. And so you really need to learn how what information the sim tells you and what it means, and basically learn how the sim drives. Once you do that, you can then actually start learning, different tracks and different cars and stuff like that. And for it to be really useful. So it might be a little bit frustrating because you're going to be in it and you're just going to be making mistakes that you would never make in real life. And you're going to be crashing a bunch. That's normal. It's expected. Just work your way through it, put in the time. And once you get used to it, the benefits will start coming.
Ooh.
One thing that I think I've seen is if you're driving in iRacing, you drive as yourself, I think, and if you drive like a rhubarb, you quickly do not. You're not the person people want to race with. Is that true?
Yeah, so iRacing, I actually don't do racing against other people. I pretty much just do, like I said, I want to learn I know how to race. I know racecraft, that sort of stuff. So when I use iRacing, I just use it to learn the track. So I'll go and practice by myself, and I'll just turn, lap after lap after lap. But yeah, so if iRacing has a licensing process. So you start off in, I think, like D class or something like that, and you got to work your way up. And really, it's just, everyone says, if you want to work your way out, just stay at the very end, avoid all the crashes, and just finish a race. That's all you got to do. And just do that a couple of times to learn kind of, what it takes to not hit anyone. But yeah, that is quite a problem. Is that, if you start hitting people and doing stuff, you get, a bad reputation. You also get, iRacing keeps track of that. So you can get demoted. You can lose your license. So you basically, in order to race in certain races, you have to have the correct license. So that way, basically all the people who are hitting everybody, well, they're all in the bottom class. And, once you've graduated from not hitting anyone, then you get to move up to a higher level class. And if you start hitting people again, well, then you get demoted back down to the
actually start racing
to the lower classes again. And if you're really, really bad, they'll even ban you.
What about black flags? Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say that out loud?
Alan already knows how to get those.
Yeah, they've got black flags, and you have to serve them. If you don't serve them, you're booted from that session.
Oh,
right. But if you just put a wheel off track, they don't give you flags for that.
So they do. So if you put a wheel off track, so they have points basically is how it works. And if you get to an X amount of points, something happens. So I think like a wheel off is 1 point. 2 wheels off or 4 wheels off is 2 points. A crash is 2 points. By yourself crash is 2 points. So you get the idea. They basically do. They have to keep track of all that sort of stuff, and that's part of your licensing process. If you acquire too many points, you're not going to be able to advance, or again, you might get demoted.
But if you're just practicing on a track by yourself, do those?
There's no points. Yeah, so you can crash as much as you want. You can go off as much as you want. You can run counter race if you want.
So we can acclimate and learn the system before we start, showing off our lack of skill.
You should probably do that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do they have scheduled tournaments, like scheduled races?
And then they do. And that's a lot of fun. There's some groups that are out there to do that. One of the bigger ones right now is the Grid Life iRacing group. And they're pretty cool guys, really, really good drivers, most of them anyways. They have a couple of what they call mid-pack Larrys that cause all sorts of craziness, but they eventually, if you were bad the previous race, well, you don't get invited to this one because there's only, I think, 60 spots or something like that, maybe less, but only the top, you have to qualify and the top 60 get it. And if you're, goof up the previous race, you're not allowed in that spot the next race.
Wow. I know Lucky Dog has a inside Lucky Dog group for iRacing.
Yeah, I think Champ Car has one. I started
sure.
one for AAR. So there's a lot of ones that are like that, and it's a lot of fun because then you're racing with people and stuff like that. But there are leagues, official leagues, where you get points and championships and stuff like that. Again, I haven't really participated in any of that, so I don't know a whole lot about it, but I do know it's there. And what's kind of cool is that so you can go in and watch a race, and they have announcers and everything like that. It's really cool. Yeah.
Hate to see what they say about our driving, but okay.
Well, join a league race and find out.
Oh, there you go. And we don't have to pay to fix the cars.
That's why sim racing is so expensive. It's actually the reset button.
Oh yeah.
So you were mentioning that there's a variety of tracks. We primarily run Lemons. We're looking to run some of the other series. We do a lot of the HPDEs. So we go to, like last year, we went to Watkins Glen for the first time. We went to Portland for the first time. We do lots of the Northeast tracks. Is there are the common tracks there, and then
Yeah, so iRacing has pretty much all the tracks that like the professional series go to. They got every single NASCAR track that you can think of. They also have local oval tracks as well, and they have most of the really big road race tracks that the professional series go to. They even have NJMP Thunderbolt, because when it was first built, they were initially going to have a professional race there, so they started it. It's now what they call a technical track, which means it's started not finished in iRacing. So instead of paying for $12, you pay $5. But it doesn't have. It's got the road surface, but all the trees, bridges, they're all just wireframes.
okay.
They're all in the right place, but it's like a wireframe. So you don't have all that texture. So it's still decent. I'll still use it, but does make it a little bit difficult when you're trying to find reference points, and you just have this weird little background thing.
So we may finally be able to figure out which line go through the octopus then. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. And then
but
the cars. Go ahead.
Yeah, so cars, all same thing. There's a limited cars, again, mostly. I'm on iRacing right now. It says they've got 80 cars to choose from, and let me see how many tracks they got. 80 tracks with over 230 configurations, they say.
Wow.
But if you go to, like I said, a moddable sim like Assetto Corsa or R Factor 2, you can download content, and there's professionals will make it so that'll be either laser scanned and maybe you have to pay for it, or like I said, I made Calabogie. I also made Palmer, and so you can download that for free. It's not 100% accurate, but it's close enough that you can basically learn the track on it before you go there. So some of the amateur stuff is really, really good. Some of it, like my stuff's not all that great, but so it's kind of hit or miss. But if you go to racedepartment.com, you can basically download any car, any track for any of the sims, right? So if you've got like a 1960s Mini Cooper and you want to learn how to drive that thing at I don't know, some like Bridgehampton, right? Doesn't exist anymore. You can do that in Assetto Corsa.
Okay.
So it's pretty cool. In fact, the Bridgehampton track there is actually pretty accurate and a lot of fun to drive.
So for those at home, the hardware is interchangeable. It doesn't really care which program we use.
Correct. Yeah. So I mean, like I said, you're basically using iRacing interchangeably with sim racing.
Correct.
Really, we should be just saying, it's sim racing. You can choose to use iRacing. You can choose to use, like I said, Assetto Corsa, R Factor, Project Cars, Race Room Experience, Automobilista, whatever. Right? There are a bunch of different sims available. That, like I said, the two that I use are iRacing and Assetto Corsa because they're the most realistic and have the tracks that I want to drive. Some of the other ones, like I really liked Race Room Experience. Awesome sim, it only has 4 US tracks, so not that useful for me. Yeah, so not very useful for me.
If we got lucky and they were the 4 you wanted, awesome, but not so much. Okay.
Yeah, 3 of them that I like, but I'm not gonna just start using that just for those 3 tracks.
Right. Is there anything else we should do as an introduction to sim racing? We've been using iRacing, you're right.
Yeah, so iRacing. The other thing is, like I said, decent pedals are worth the money. I have a set of Fanatec V3 inverteds that I got on sale with Black Friday. Black Friday's coming up, so
ooh, we're also timely. Who knew that?
It's the only time Fanatec has deals. So if they have something that you want on sale, purchase it then, because it will not go on sale. Maybe it'll go on sale next Black Friday. Maybe it won't.
For those of us that don't know how to spell. How do you spell Fanatec? What is that? F-E-N?
Fanatec, yeah.
Thank you.
It will be in the show notes.
Yeah, so those are pretty much like your
with
mid-level,
with
your mid to higher end stuff. Like and then you can go like even crazier than Fanatec. Husfeld, I don't know how to say it, but they've got some like crazy tilt and pedals and stuff like that that are actually hydraulic.
Oh wow!
Yeah, but they're well over $1,000.
But you can work your way up to it. And
absolutely.
Like
I really like my pedals. I think they were actually worth every penny. I have a Fanatec CSL Elite wheelbase, which was I think it's not it's an upgrade from the Logitech, but not like it's not
Not a big one.
not twice the price of an upgrade. I don't think. Probably going to.
So Scott, do some of these steering wheels release off their mount like a regular car one does? Is that what I'm saying?
Yeah, all the Fanatec stuff really. So you pretty much buy a base and then you buy a wheel. So that's where it kind of adds up, right? So you can buy your base. You buy like a Club Sport base, which is decent. It's like $600, but then you got to buy $100 to a $400 steering wheel on top of that. So now you're looking at almost $1,000 if you get like the higher end stuff,
Gotcha.
just for that base. They also
got
have
steering
a
wheel.
direct drive wheel, which is probably what I'm going to upgrade to shortly. That probably my next upgrade is a direct drive wheel. That's kind of the hot thing these days. So Fanatec just came out with their direct drive wheels last year, and as a result, one of the competitors, AccuForce, their prices just came down. So I think like Fanatec can get their cheapest wheels like $1,000 without a actual steering wheel. AccuForce just lowered their prices to $1,000 with a steering wheel.
Yeah, I see a podium wheelbase DD1 for looks like $1,200.
Yeah. And then is that with a steering wheel?
It does not look like it has a wheel on it. Just as base.
Yeah. So now you're looking at another $200 with the wheel, right? So you're looking at.
Can we use like one of our normal racing wheels?
No.
You can no. You have to have a Fanatec. Now you can swap, Fanatec wheels from one to the other. There's guys that have they have a steering wheel collection that they use with their bases, and the steering wheel collection itself costs more than my race car, I would say.
Yeah, Bill, these wheels have like 35 knobs on them.
Yeah, they're insane. Very realistic.
Sounds like some of our drivers.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right. Is there anything else on or sim racing we should be?
Yeah. So spend the money on good pedals. The other thing that I would highly recommend is virtual reality and a vibration feedback like a butt kicker and software like SimVibe. Those really get you, I would say, 75% of the way to like a full motion where you're getting some sort of a lot more feedback, right? So the SimVibe basically allows you to, the software basically reads in the telemetry of the racing software, and it basically emits tones to vibrate there like a butt kicker or whatever, at different tones to simulate different things. So when you go over a curb, it'll feel one way. If you hit ABS, it'll feel another way. If you stomp on the gas and the car starts to slide out, it'll feel something else, right? And so I've gotten it down to where it kind of feels similar to what it feels like in real life. So I know what they are, and I know the differences. And that sort of stuff can be, not only is it super helpful for immersion to kind of trick your brain into thinking that you're actually there, right?
Right.
But it also is another form of feedback to know, oh, hey, the car's starting to slide out before it actually does, and allows you to correct it that much faster. And the faster you correct it, the much easier it is to actually catch, right?
Right.
So to find those limits, and like I said, it's just a lot of fun. So I actually have, like, on my simulator, I actually have a butt kicker under the seat. I've got a Dayton Dave, which is basically a small vibrator. I've got that under my pedals to vibrate.
What Dave? Who's Dave?
It's called a Dayton Dave. It's actually outdated. Dayton Audio.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Right? Yeah, Dayton Audio. And so Dave is, I forgot it's like vibrator emitter, right? Dayton Audio Vibrator Emitter is what I think the Dave stands for. Unfortunately, they don't make it, but basically it comes down to the size. It's basically a hockey puck size. It's pretty small. It used to be cheap. It was like $35 and was extremely powerful for its size. So I mounted that to the bottom of my pedals, and I use that just for basically engine revs and ABS kicking. With the SimVibe, you can basically choose different channels. Channel would be like your oversteer, your ABS, traction loss, curbs,
nice,
that sort of stuff. And then you can map it to, you can have one, I'm just going to call them butt kickers. They're LFEs, low frequency emitters. Butt kicker under your seat, one under your pedals. You can even do, that would be in extension mode. They have chassis mode where you can basically put one on four corners of your sim. So you can have it feel like you're, when you hit a curb, first the front right one hurts, and then the the rear hit. So you actually feel the differences of the vibration where it's coming from, right? So that sort of stuff. So I've got one in my pedals. I also have a Realtus Force Feel seat pad that vibrates. It has 8 motors built into this pad that you sit on top of. And so it can, do just the right side. So if I hit a curb, just the right side, or if, again, if oversteering, it'll vibrate something, or if,
Right.
I have the RPM. So when I rev up, I get the feel of the car shaking.
Right.
That sort of stuff. And that stuff, again, really helps with the immersion to trick your brain to thinking that you're there. And kind of get you into it.
Scott, with Christmas and the holidays coming up, is there any places that we should be looking for?
Yeah, so there's a lot of deals that are going to be coming up for Black Friday through Cyber Monday. Like I said earlier, the Fanatec, they only have a sale once a year, and they have, I think it's like up to 6 different bundles that you can get. But so there is a group on Facebook called Sim Racing Deals that I started that's all about any sort of sim components, be it wheels, pedals, handbrakes,
Even used stuff, right?
yep, even used stuff, video cards that are really good deals, like not just your basic someone selling it for a little bit less than cost, but really good deals. So if you are looking to put together a sim rig or looking to upgrade, you're definitely going to want to join Sim Racing Deals. It's an open public group.
Yep. They even let me in, so it's very open.
Yeah. So anyone can post. So it's not just me posting the deals. Anyone can post. If you see it, a deal, please feel free to share it there. But it will be going like crazy for Black Friday through Cyber Monday with all sorts of deals coming through and stuff like that. So basically, if you're looking to put together a sim rig, this upcoming weekend is really the time to take some time on Black Friday and looking through deals, looking through that, and purchase something. If you need help specking out a full rig, including your from your PC all the way up to your pedals and everything else, I can do all of that for you fairly quickly and easily. I pretty much you give me a budget and I will spec out the best bang for your buck. If you don't want to feel like putting it together, I can put together the PC for you as well. So, basically just charge 10% of whatever the actual parts cost to actually put together the equipment. So I just do it pretty much for people in that group. It started off just as my friends because it's really not a whole lot of money. And a ton of time, but it's kind of cool, and I enjoy helping other people out.
Okay, and how much is it to get the receipt to be smaller so Vicky sees it?
That's another 10% right there.
10%? Okay, all right, that sounds fair. That's probably the best 10% I'll ever have. So we could probably use that on our race car budget too. That would be good. Does the systems, do the various systems, do they monitor like tire wear, tire temperature, brake temperatures, any of that?
Yes. Yep. So a lot of the sims offer that. You can over when you first go out on track, you've got cold tires, so it's super easy to spin until you warm up the tires.
Right.
And then eventually the tires will go away. So all of that is done. Like iRacing, when you do that, eventually you're going to wear out the tires and you're going to run out of fuel. So you come in and do a pit stop, and literally you sit there, and the pit crew has to do. You see your car get jacked up, and you see them doing, changing tires and filling you up and stuff like that. And an endurance race, you're sitting there waiting for them to finish all this before you're allowed back out.
Nice. Okay.
You can turn that stuff on and off too if you want.
Right. Okay. That sounds cool. Alan, you have anything else? I could take that as a no. Alan doesn't have anything else. I think they're ditching me, Scott. I think they are.
Oh boy.
All right.
It's almost dinner time.
Yeah, pretty much. Couple questions before you've got a lot more racing experience than anybody on our team and most of the people we know. So we usually ask when we get a chance, kind of a good, bad, and the ugly of what you've seen and what you've done. Good being, hey, if I was starting over, this worked really well. Bad being, hey, if I was starting over, you definitely should not do this. And ugly
like
is always the most fun. Yeah, pretty much. Most of our efforts, ugly. So could you do that real fast?
Sure. I think one of the things that I've seen is teams who get into racing and they just do, like, Lemons or Trump Car when it was first Trump, and you could, maybe you've never turned a wheel on a track before and you said, I want to go try this. And your very first time you've ever in a race car on a racetrack is one of those events. And I know a couple of teams who have done that, is to eventually you really should go to high performance, HPDE and
Right.
do that. There's teams that haven't done that. And, I see that their performance suffers, as well as they never really learned the basics. They never really had an instructor to kind of correct them. And so they just keep making the same mistakes over and over, not knowing that there's a better way of doing it. And so having an instructor with you, or having just the opportunity, even if it's not a DE with an instructor, but an open track day where you can just sit and practice and try different things,
Right.
is super, super helpful. But really, if you've never had an instructor or a coach in the right seat with you, you really need to.
Okay. And the last thing you want to do is get really good at making mistakes, right?
Yeah. So Ross Bentley basically says only perfect practice makes perfect. So if you keep practicing those bad mistakes, guess what? You're going to reinforce those bad mistakes.
Yeah.
So it's very important that you learn what they are and mentally try not to do it and try and correct them. But if you don't know what they are, if you don't have a second set of eyes on you who's trained to do that, you're just going to keep doing it.
So we did that.
Over and over.
Yeah, we did the HPDE after a while though, so that was good.
Good.
Lots of those. Anything that you would see that either good or bad that you'd recommend or recommend not? I mean, you could probably do a day on that, but something that comes to mind.
You said something bad or something good?
Either way.
No, just that really is the main thing.
Okay. And then anything ugly?
Yeah, I mean, if you actually, I take that back. So if you want to get into it, rent a seat on someone else's team. So you get an idea of what it's like. Make sure it's for you, but more importantly, to see, when we first started doing this, we had this idea of what it was going to be like and what was going to be required. And then once we did it, we're like, if only we had known, we would have done this, and this differently. And it was immediately apparent at our very first event. And so if you go and rent a seat, it's going to be significantly cheaper. You're going to, again, find out if you like it. And you're also going to see how it works and what you can do to kind of take advantage of how the system works as you're basically building your team and your car.
Okay. All right. We definitely didn't do that. I felt concerned about messing up somebody else's stuff, so we kind of said we'll break something on our own.
Quite right. No, you did a great job with that, Bill, I must say.
Yes, we have broken things on our own. Yes, we have.
There are teams that are open to that, and just be upfront with your experience.
Sure.
And usually they're also going to be upfront with their expectations. So, but there's hundreds of teams per event, so you can absolutely find a team that's willing to take a rookie driver and put them through the paces and kind of show them the experience.
I think that's pretty much been us almost every race, Scott. There's been one race where we didn't have someone that wasn't new. I think that was Road Atlanta.
I don't think.
Otherwise, I think every single race we put someone that either barely has had a license, didn't know how to drive standard, you name it. We've done it every race.
Yeah.
We like to bring new people into our sport.
Yeah, I've the last two Lemons events at NJMP, I did that with people who had never turned a wheel on a track before. Now, I coached them. I took them to a DE event, and I coached them in my car on the track before we actually went to the Lemons event. So technically, the race was their second or third day ever,
right,
on a racetrack. But other than that, they had never been on a racetrack before. So it's certainly possible. But again, I felt comfortable. I've been doing this for a long time. So I was able to get them up to speed where I wanted them to be before I felt comfortable letting them loose in traffic.
Yeah, see, I think that's where we differ there, because we really,
we're almost there.
Uh-huh. Yeah. No, listen, for as many knuckleheads as we put in cars, we've done pretty well.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just my kid that lost the front headlights, and that wasn't his first race, so.
Well, he had assistance. He had assistance on.
Yeah,
that,
well,
so.
I mean,
So, another example is my brother lives 10 miles from CMP. He's always wanted to do a race with me. So last year we did Lemons CMP with a guy who had run a couple of races, but wasn't super competitive and just wanted to go out and have fun. And he didn't have a passenger seat, so We went Friday. My brother did like a half of a track day on practice at CMP the day before the Lemons event, and did his very first, wheel to wheel. His essentially, after a half a day of track time there.
Right.
Didn't hit anyone, didn't cause any problems, so that was good, right? So it's absolutely, like I said, if you've never turned a wheel, there are teams out there that will allow you to participate, and it's a great way to do so.
Yep. Just getting out there is a win all by itself. That's what we keep saying because we don't get on the podiums.
It took me. So I started in '99 and ran up front pretty consistently, but never podium. Was always pretty close. When we got our first win. Well, we got our first win, I guess, in 2009 when we started. We got our first win in 2011, which was the 25 and a half hour, the very first 25 and a half hour at Nelson Ledges.
Oh, okay.
And then that was 2011. 2012, we got like first at NJMP with Champ and Lemons.
I thought you were going to make me feel bad and say, I didn't start till 1999, and I didn't get a podium until like March of 2000, or.
Well, anyways, it took a bunch of years. I mean, we had a lot of second places right off the bat. I mean, because I've been doing DEs since '99, so for 10 years, I knew a lot of people who were really good drivers. So we basically had some hot shoes. In fact, when we won the 25 and a half hour race, I was contacted by a friend who said, "Hey, listen, I want to win this race. Let's put together a team to do it. And oh, by the way, we're going to use your car." And so, which is an E30 4-cylinder. And so we basically cherry picked this team of Spec E30 champions, Mike Skeen, who's a professional race car driver, and me, who I hadn't been a champion at that time, but we were all, I would say, I think the slowest guy was maybe 1.5 seconds off Mike Skeen's time.
Strong contenders, right? Yeah.
And Mike Skeen had the fastest lap of the day out of everyone in a 4-cylinder E30. Yeah, so.
See, we're the other end of the barbell.
Yeah, see, I think our curve is like if we're in the top half of the field, like 50%.
We call it
that's
good.
First place for us. And then if we're in the bottom half of the field, that's like second place. It's kind of like
But you guys have been doing this for 2 years, not 20 years like me.
Well, that doesn't mean we can't complain about it.
Exactly.
I mean, we never iRaced or sim race, so that's obviously why.
there you go. Yeah.
And then we just like to have fun because we started this and we just thought it was a blast, so we're trying to get as many people out there as we can. So
yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now with doing like Lemons events and stuff, is getting people who haven't done it into the sport, and it's quickly very addicting.
Yes.
That definitely is. It definitely is. Alan, you got anything?
No, I'm good. That's awesome, Scott. Thanks for coming on. It sounds like a blast. I was checking out your website there. It seems like you're been thrashing those BMWs pretty well there.
Yeah.
We just picked up on ourselves, so we're having a little fun with it. Yep. But no, I think the iRacing will be good. I did just a little, I think it was like Forza or something, like Xbox type thing, just to kind of get the idea of a track or whatever. But I definitely think the idea of at least practicing some of it, even the night before a race or practice or whatever, is a great idea if you can get the actual track you're on. But it sounds like depending on what level you get into it, you certainly can download this, go as far as you want to go.
Yeah, like, I mean, the R Factor and our set of course, so they're fairly cheap. I think maybe $30, and they're regularly on sale for 50% off. I'm sure they're going to be 50% off come Black Friday.
Yeah.
So buy those titles, when you get a chance. And like I said, pretty much there is, I've got a spreadsheet that has all of the tracks that I'm interested in or in the US and which sims have them. But pretty much there's, if it's a fairly big track, it's not some, bodunk track, it's probably one of the sims probably has it.
It's in something, right?
Yeah. And if you've got some oddball car, well, someone probably made that too.
I doubt they made our car.
Now it may not have the mods that or been built the way that you built it. Yeah, but
that's for sure.
The base at least is there. Yeah. The base is probably still there.
Yeah, we're still in the midst of building this one car, so it's quite the. We'll go with hybrid to be politically correct. Yeah. So,
I mean, are you ever stopped building a car?
No, not yet. We keep rebuilding cars a lot.
You're either building it or you're rebuilding it. There's
Well, rebuilding it. It just depends who you're talking about with what rebuilding, air quotes is, because because we adjust them as we go. We're independent people like that.
I like to think of it as we're dialing it in still. So, Scott, you've been tremendous. Is there any way that people could contact you or follow with you or see how you're doing somewhere?
Sure. So either on Facebook or my website, performancecoaching.com. That's PROF performance, not performance, performance.com. I'm sorry, performancecoaching.com.
Okay. And you can follow along on Facebook and see him and wonder how he manages to get everywhere that he seems to be, because it's like he's got a
Yeah.
teleporter or something. I'm like, he was just there. How did he get all the way to there? But
He's
okay.
fast. He's fast. That's why. He's fast.
Yes. Yeah, that's true, I guess. He just takes the podiums with him. That's what I'm thinking.
So yeah, it's cool. I mean, I probably only post some of the like when I do the extreme or exotic cars, I post a lot of that stuff. So if you're into that, I post that. I've kind of been slacking on posting up on my racing lately.
Yep. Well, we've been slack on having racing results, so that's okay. We'll look at that.
No, we have lots of results. There's results all over the place. It just depends what you want. I mean, what are desired results? That's it's all.
That was a very
It's
different.
relative,
Anytime you complete a race and bring the car home in one piece, that should be considered a win in your book.
Hey, those
We don't have to
wheels,
do
both of those front wheels stayed on that
Podiums-
E36 there, right, Bill? They were both on there.
Yeah.
I mean, pretty
Yeah, so far.
much.
Podium's just icing on the cake.
There you go. We're just looking for some cake, people. Just looking for some cake.